Butler serves up a dud in Miami. Damian Lillard is out indefinitely. Can the Bucks survive without him? We fill in the blank on the Phoenix Suns and the OKC Thunder, and we play a game of innie or outie on some crazy NBA takes and tussles. That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me, as always, are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. We've got the man of 1,000 podcasts, Matt Moore. Matt, Josh Hart has a Knicks record 9 triple-doubles this season. Can you be a glue guy and have 9 triple-doubles in a season? Is Hart too good to be a glue guy?
God, he's like Joakim Noah, right? Like from a glue guy perspective, where it's like he just does all of the things all of the time. I think he can be a glue guy that has 9 triple-doubles because you're just like contributing in all the ways that matter. Like those rebounds are tough for a forward. You know, the assists are really kind of impressive, but yeah, I think he can be a glue guy that does the triple doubles. Triple doubles should be more of a glue guy thing. I think you should have more. We should aim for more 10-10-10s around the league.
All right. And from the Locked On Bulls podcast, he's our Prince of Petty, Hayes. According to Jimmy Butler, he and Draymond are spending hours bonding over games of dominoes. How do you spend your time bonding with people, Hayes?
Actually playing Monopoly. Monopoly night gets very competitive in the Hayes households. There you go.
I spend it eating actual dominoes, which is probably why I have indigestion. Speaking of Jimmy Butler, the highly anticipated showdown between Jimmy Butler's Warriors and his old team, the Miami Heat, was anything but a showdown. The Miami Heat dominated the Warriors 112-86. Butler was held to 11 points on 12 shots in 28 minutes. Bit of a bummer that it was all hype, no substance, no? What happened? Why wasn't this more interesting, Matt?
So I do the betting contents over at Action Network, and one of the things that I put a bet in on the Heat in this game or the Warriors. I was like, I really want to take Heat money line, but no, like surely not. Surely, I don't know what am I thinking? Of course, the Heat lost 9 in a row. Of course they beat the Warriors and Jimmy Butler. Well, of course they did. This is the most NBA thing, not even March, Doug, just like the most NBA thing possible, that this is how this goes down. I do think that there's like, no matter how much you want to try and rise above it, and Jimmy tried to talk about like, yeah, no big deal to me, I am unflappable. Well, you know, you're human. And it seems like it really kind of got to him, and he was in his feels. And so I think it was an impressive game by the Heat. A good reminder, and I'll come back to this later in the show. You are never as bad as your worst stretch of games in a season, nor are you as good as your best stretch of the season.
That's an amazing point there, Matt. Very, very rare point. This was a fun game to watch. Storylines and everything aside, this was a fun game to watch. And in no way does this mean that the Miami Heat still aren't a very struggling franchise and needs a wake-up call about the direction of their franchise. But I had a lot of fun watching this game. Jimmy had a very solid performance. They just did not pull out the win. And shout out to the Miami Heat. They need all the good things possible down there in Miami because I think it's about to get really real for those Miami Heat fans.
All right, let's go out to the local experts on both sides of this matchup for their takes on Jimmy Butler's performance. You'll hear first from Locked On Heat and then Locked On Warriors.
Humbled. He looked kind of shaken. He looked like he was kind of scared of the moment.
I think he shut down. I think he shut down the emotions. Right. The Heat finally, the thing I've been begging them to do, let the emotions in, feel it, feel your pain, feel something, and then harness it, use it. And Jimmy Butler didn't. Jimmy Butler said, I'm going to shut everything off.
They needed dogs tonight, and Jimmy is supposed to be one of those dogs. It's getting a little frustrating to me. I understand the approach, and I understand he wants to make the right play, but he also, again, I've seen him do it. He has to know the moment where this becomes time for him to do something. And that moment came early tonight, and he did not meet that moment. And every time he fails to meet that moment in the regular season, puts a little dent in that idea of like, hey, don't worry, come playoff time, Jimmy Butler's going to be able to show up when needed.
Okay, wow. Strong takes from both. Matt.
Can I just say that I love that Wes Goldberg is like trying to, like, you could take Wes Goldberg's little segment there about let the pain in. Let it, like, are you trying to convince them to be Batman? Is that like what the objective is here? Because like that's what I got from that is like embrace, you are justice, you are the night, you are the heat. But yeah, it was good stuff there.
Well, no, I think so much of heat culture and a lot of these like tough cultures around sports are all about like, no, we're above that. We don't worry about those things. Where I think Wes is advocating for teams to let some of that in, feel that, harness it, use it. And the Heat have certainly looked lifeless until the past couple of games. Hayes, what do you think about this? Are you starting to get worried that playoff Jimmy doesn't exist anymore? Kolsky with Locked On Warriors sounds a little worried.
No, I mean, we've seen Jimmy Butler look completely lethargic out there at times, like he's just tired and exhausted from the season. He finds a way to turn it on. So nothing that happens in the regular season is going to worry me too much. I think he's going to be motivated to prove people wrong. Like I said, in a motivated Jimmy Butler, it's scary in the playoffs. So this, if anything, may even make it more that he feels like he has to prove more of himself in the playoffs. But then again, you don't need Jimmy to go nuclear in the playoffs anymore because you have Steph. Like, it controlled chaos. That's what you need from Jimmy Butler. So I'm not too worried about it yet. If we have a couple of more games, I mean, we've got 10 games left. I'm not too worried right now.
Yeah. So let's see. 56 points versus the Milwaukee Bucks back on April of 2023. He had 42 in overtime versus the Milwaukee Bucks. He had 40 versus the I'm sensing a pattern here. The other thing is that, hey, you played in the Eastern Conference. Welcome to the West, buddy. And that's going to be a little bit different. Look, here's the thing. Butler, I think, was legitimately playoff Jimmy in 2000, and like even the Sixers run in 2019, he was really great in that run. I think he was great in 2020. I think he was great in 2021 and 2022. Like the Heat's best chance of winning a title was 2022. That said, I think since then, it's been way more myth than reality. And I think that he's not that player anymore. I just don't think he is. I think a guy that during his injury, who's hanging out at the Miami Open and like just chilling out and pissing Pat Riley off is probably not made of the same stuff. I just think the myth got to his head a little bit. And I personally don't think he's that guy anymore.
All right, let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Coming up, we've got some news that broke yesterday on Damian Lillard, his status uncertain for the rest of the season and the playoffs for the Milwaukee Bucks. Plus, we play a game of fill in the blank. If the Phoenix Suns beat the Boston Celtics tonight, we should consider them a blank. We'll find out what Matt and Hayes think about that and more coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live, the energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe you even get a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to watch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so that you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. No more endless searching. Game Time Picks highlights the best seats at the best prices so that you can get straight to the fun without worrying about overpaying. That's no fun. Plus, with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book your next set of tickets with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen today and every day. News broke yesterday on Damian Lillard. He's out indefinitely due to a blood clot in his leg, though a league source told The Athletic that there is a great deal of optimism that he will return this season. Matt, what does this mean for Lillard? What does this mean for the Milwaukee Bucks and their chances of competing in the postseason?
I mean, I think it's really tough just because you have to be so cautious with it, and he's going to have to rest for the majority of it. They're going to be so cautious with him in terms of not exacerbating and making sure that he doesn't throw a clot into worse situations. So I think there's worries about conditioning from that perspective. There's a lot we don't know. I'm glad to hear that there's a possibility he can come back this season, but you got to be as cautious as possible. So if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Like, this is just one where championship pursuit and legacies of Giannis and you can't factor anything in, and you just got to make sure Dame's okay.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. Like it's about the health more important than anything. And Dame basically said that as well in his release afterwards. Like that he was happy that the priority is his health and his family and his kids and things like that. Like, if he's able to come back, great, but don't rush it, don't push it, and they won't. They'll play it as safe as possible with this, as they should. It sucks for the Bucks with the Detroit Pistons right there nipping at their heels. And I tell you what, the Orlando Magic starting to play better as well, but for Dame and his health, the most important thing is just taking the time. If you can get back on the court, you can get back on the court.
All right, let's kick it to Locked On Bucks to hear where the team goes from here.
The fact that they've had to play these last 3 games without Dame and insert Ryan Rollins in the starting lineup and try to figure out how do we make things work here is somewhat helpful that you at least get a 3-game baseline there. But yeah, now look, we've had so many conversations about the, for lack of a better word, pressure that is on the role players of who is going to be the consistent third scorer. Who's going to step up next to Giannis? You know, like who's going to be the role player that has those big moments and hits shots? And again, it doesn't have to be the same player game in, game out. You just need to have that.
Bobby Portis is somebody who's very important to this team after the trade deadline with how they're constructed now. And with Dame's injury news, again, even more important, I think Bobby Portis is for this team. They're really going to need that offense that he's able to create for himself, as well as seeing if he can create some for others as well.
All right, for more on the Milwaukee Bucks, make sure you're checking out Locked On Bucks. They took a tough loss to the Phoenix Suns the other night. The Phoenix Suns have won 4 games in a row and now sit in the 10th spot, a half game ahead of the Dallas Mavericks. They have a big matchup tonight with the Boston Celtics. Let's kick it to Locked On Suns for a mini preview.
Through these 3 huge games heading into this last one, and I said the bigs are going to decide it. I've pretty much been wrong about that, although Brook Lopez was pretty dominant on Monday night. But I think how they can handle Porzingis, to me, is going to probably be, Brown will do his damage. You got to have an answer for that. But like the biggest matchup problem for the Suns is going to be Porzingis, and I could see him having a big night inside or outside. What's fair expectations? Like what has to happen for you to leave tomorrow night feeling like, all right,
they have to win. They have to win.
Okay.
They have to win. I'm not going to. So no moral victories this late in the season. They have to win.
All right, a little Wednesday have to win, must win game between Phoenix and Boston. Let's play a little game of fill in the blank. Hayes, if the Phoenix Suns do manage to beat the Boston Celtics, we should consider them a blank.
A NBA team.
Oh, God, that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, a solid NBA team. I'm not buying too much into it. At this point in the season, I'm not buying too much into it. Like, the Phoenix Suns are good. They're having a really good story. They have their chance to make the playoffs, and that's all fine and dandy. But I think this still ends in the way that it was always going to end for the Phoenix Suns. It's like the season has sucked for them. It's going to continue to suck. They're going to have to pick a new direction and move on. There you go.
Okay, so Hayes is at the threshold. Like, all right, there's the Charlotte Hornets, there's a line, and then there's a Phoenix Suns. I got it. Okay.
Come on.
So I'll go the other way here. I think that they can be, if you have not seen the classic 80s flick about baseball Major League, you should go check that out. And it's a really funny movie that holds up in a lot of ways. In that, there was this team with a poorly named, that has now been changed to the Guardians squad, that was basically just like playing it out, right? They decided, like, let's just go for it. Screw it. They're going to sell all of us and move the team. Let's just go for it. And then we went for it. And that to me is kind of like where the Suns are at. Screw it. Like, we've already hit rock bottom. KD's leaving this summer. There's like, this whole thing is getting torn down. Let's go out there and F things up. And I think that there's a real possibility to be dangerous in that regard. I think the Pacers are kind of that in the Eastern Conference. They're not going to get torn apart, but they're just like, yeah, nobody thinks that we're supposed to do anything, but we're good and we don't care. And we're just going to go out there and ball. I think there's a possibility for the Suns to do that. Like, I've been on them for the last couple of weeks. I said this after the comeback versus the Clippers that I saw something. They lost more games and everyone's like, yeah, never mind. I'm telling you, the Suns have hit the worst part of their season and they're starting to head towards something that I think could be, not will be, but could be dangerous.
Yeah, listen, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, they are still playing well. I think the biggest difference between the losing Phoenix Suns and the winning Phoenix Suns has been their young players who started off the season hot and then became young players, have taken all of that experience and started to play well again. They're getting good performances from Ryan Dunn, Tyus Jones, Colin Gillespie. And so, when you have to pay so much money for all these stars, you have to invest in young players that are going to sort of naturally oscillate between being very good and very bad. So hopefully for the Suns' sake, those young players are getting very good at the right time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a double-edged problem too, because you need to play the young guys more. You also need to play Bradley Beal less. You need to play him as least as possible. And they can't really do that. And that's causing, I think, a lot. Like, honestly, if you told me, like, yeah, Bradley Beal has been excused from the team for the rest of the summer, I would be like, kind of like the Suns now. Like, that's how much the on-off splits are bad there.
Let's talk about another young team that's going in a very different direction. The OKC Thunder, they secured their 60th win, the youngest team to achieve such a feat in NBA history. Here's Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder to warn you about being a doubting Thomas when it comes to the Thunder.
Are who we think they are. They are contenders. They should win the West, and they respond to adversity exceptionally well. They have the most talent, they respond to adversity, and they have the star power that you need to win a championship, to get to a championship, to win the West, etc. They check the boxes. The only box they don't check is that they've won a championship before. But guess what? Throughout the NBA history is littered with unique champions. Because guess what you have to do to get championship experience? You gotta win a championship. It's no team's birthright to win a championship. It's the easy approach because it takes no effort. You don't have to watch a single second of the NBA. If your only discount of a team is they've never done it before, can they really win it? They've never done it before. That takes zero effort.
All right, Matt, OKC's youth will be a blank for them in the postseason.
It'll be a liability. I'm sorry, Styles. I want to believe, but the best predictor of future performance is past behavior. And the past behavior says that inexperienced teams that are young don't get there, that it takes them time to go through that pain and get there. Last year wasn't pain. Last year was like, hey, we're pretty good. 1 seed in the West. This year it's, you should win a championship if you're this good. Like, there's expectation there. I think there is a trend over the last 7 to 8 years that indicates that championship teams are getting a little younger. It used to be like in the days of like early 2010s, like the Mavericks is a good example of this, where you could just load up on veterans between 29 and 34, load up on a bunch of really good veterans, and you're a title contender, and you needed to be that. I think we're moving to an era where you need to be younger. Like, Tatum was on the younger side when he won his first title last year. Jaylen Brown. Jokic was, 28 when he won his first title. That's about the prime. But I will just say that, like, I think we're heading in that direction. But the Thunder are so young, Hayes. I just have to maintain a level, not skepticism, but caution for getting too carried away with proclamations. I'm just not willing to be like, yep, they're going to win. No question.
Yeah, I think it's right to have some caution there with them, but I think that they should take this and use it as motivation. It should be motivating for them that people are doubting them because of their age. They should be so young to not give a damn, to just be frank in what my dad used to say about me and my friends. We were too young to care. Because go out there and prove it. Like, you've been one of the best team in the NBA. You have one of the best records above 500 teams. You've proven it. Now you got to do it for another step. Use it as a motivating factor for you. All these old head teams that have been there and done it before, the Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, the Denver aren't necessarily old team, but for this nature of the conversation, call them an old team and go out there and prove them wrong. That's what I want to see happen by the OKC Thunder. Yes, typically you have to fail first, then you learn how to win afterwards. You do have to go through pain to figure out how to get over the hump. But I want this team to be so young and motivated that they don't give a damn. They go out there, they win basketball. I would love for the OKC Thunder to win the title this year.
Doug, for those of us outside of OKC, right? Because the fans need to believe in the team, because that's what you need to do. You need to be a good fan and believe in the team. For the rest of us, is it better to be like, I'm going to choose to believe in this young team and risk the disappointment, or is it better to guard against that kind of thing? Because like I run into that where it's like, I want teams like this to win. OKC is the type of team that everyone should root for. A small market team that did everything right. They did everything right in this process. They don't have any advantages at all. Right. And everyone's going to be like, the free throw merchant. Yeah, they're second to lowest in the league in free throw rate and second highest in opponent free throw rate. It doesn't pass muster there. Is it better to buy in and risk the disappointment, or to be more cautious?
No, it's always better to believe, because then if they do it, you get to throw it in everyone's face. If you're just a skeptic and they happen to do it, I don't think anyone calls you to task for that. But I don't think you get punished for that. But if you believe and they miss out, or if you believe and they actually hit, then all of a sudden you get to be the OKC hipster, which I don't know if you can be a hipster with this team because they've won 60 games. Right. You'd probably had to get in on the ground floor maybe a couple of seasons ago before all of these role players suddenly learned how to shoot the three. But I think Rylan is selling me on a little bit. And to go to Hayes' point, if you've watched any of the OKC post-game interviews, you know that they are too young to give a damn. Like they're just goofy, and they might benefit from what they don't know. I don't think they're going to feel the same pressures that other young teams have faced in those situations. If you're going to buy in on a team to do something like that, I think you want to buy in on the OKC Thunder.
As far as no one throwing it back in your face, I'm going to pick you up later and we're going to go take a drive through my mentions, okay? We're just going to go take a drive through my mentions.
Listen, you're a completely different animal, man.
Burn
Matt
the tape
is one of the great things to see on the internet. It's just like, wait, what?
All right, coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, I've been holding on to a quote now for 2 shows, and I will get to it because it's from Doc Rivers, and I want Hayes' reaction to it in particular. I'm sure Matt's will be fantastic as well. That's coming up. Plus, we play a game of Innie or Outie. We had a crazy take from LeBron James. We had a scuffle on the Grizzly bench. We're going to get to it all coming up on Locked On NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We've got one more fill in the blank. We talked about the Milwaukee Bucks earlier in the show. Their head coach, Doc Rivers, spoke to Mark J. Spears and had some interesting comments about how he's perceived by fans and the media, particularly when it comes to sacrificing big playoff series leads. Doc said, quote, "It is what it is. It's part of my legacy. There's nothing I can do about it. I got a team that was an 8 seed up 3-1. That is coaching. That is not bad coaching. The one with the Clippers is the only one that got away, but people don't realize that Chris Paul was running on one leg, and we were also the underdog in that series. When you think about it, Houston had home court, not us. No one tells a real story, and I'm fine with that. It's unfair in some ways. I don't get enough credit for getting the 3 wins. I get credit for losing," unquote. Hayes, fill in the blank. Doc Rivers is blank about the way he's viewed by media and fans.
Accurate. I listen, 2 things could be true at the same time. You could be judged for the repeated losses, but I think one of the things that makes this conversation interesting is that we judge a team more for losing in the finals and times than we do for like a team that's like a first round exit and gets swept. Like, he made it there. Like, the fact that he won those games is a major thing. He should be able to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, how much it's happened for Doc is what makes it like such a big conversation. But let's not forget that he has gotten teams there. He has gotten teams to that point and gotten them close. And he's still done, even if to get there, you've had to do more winning than losing. While I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers guy, I, in fairness, can say he has some points here in what he's saying.
Yeah, this is the worst person you know meme. Makes a great point. It's not that Doc's a bad person. It's more of like the most annoying coach that you know. Because like Doc's a really good coach, man. Like his teams win 50 games most seasons. They just do. Like most seasons, they win a lot of games. They make the playoffs. He's not a coach where the team falls apart and tunes him out. It doesn't happen. Like he's had success everywhere he's gone since the first Boston run. Now, it's been 17 years since the title, and it's been 15 years since he made the finals. And the Clippers one, he kind of breezes past in this quote, and that to me was the much worse one. I get like that team will always be like, it was the bubble. We wanted to go home. I get it. But they were up double digits in all 3 games of 7, 6, and 5. 5, 6, 7, they were up double digits on Denver, and Denver just came back and just obliterated them. Like Markieff Morris decided to start nonsense with I think it was Marcus Morris. Marcus Morris decided to start nonsense with Paul Millsap of all people, and that led to the comeback. The Rockets one, I think he's right. They lost that series because Chris Paul hurt himself in one of the best first round series of all time versus the Spurs, and then Josh Smith went supernova from 3-point range. Like that was one of the all-time outlier performances you're ever going to see in that game. They benched James Harden and came back. That one was bad luck, but I do think that Doc's got to live with some of this because it's like you haven't had enough success to balance it out. Like you haven't had enough success. You had the Sixers series versus the Celtics. Like there's all these moments where he has not come up, that his teams have not performed and closed the deal over the last decade enough to balance out some of this. But he's got some points, I think, is how he says.
I just want to say that I'm stunned by how rational and fair you both are being right now. I'll say Doc Rivers is true to his meme for sure. Like everything you think about Doc Rivers is sort of encapsulated in that quote. I think that a lot of NBA coaches think about the way they lose games and series. I think they think about it in very similar ways that Doc thinks about it, breaking down the whats and the whys and the wheres. They just don't talk about it. They're like, no excuses. We lost. Your record is your record. Doc is one of the few guys that will come out and be like, nah, this is why I lost. Here's like 9 reasons.
I think one thing is really fascinating is Doc's a former player. The players take these losses entirely different than non-player coaches. It's just different. Like the player coaches are able to be like, I've lost lots of games in my life. And the coaching ones are just like devastated and are like, just, they never get over it. And they're going to hold on to those losses forever. It's not better or worse. I think there's ups and downs of both sides of it. And Doc's been a coach for a lot longer than he was a player. But I think that dynamic is just really interesting.
Speaking of devastated, I'm devastated that we don't have any more new episodes of the hit TV show Severance for a while. I'm a big Severance head. The Apple TV Plus show about people splitting themselves in half to become 2 people, an innie and an outie, just wrapped its 2nd season. No spoilers, I promise. The 2 halves, one a more emotional, chaotic personality, the other more in touch with cold, hard reality, are a lot like how we react to NBA storylines. So let's play a game of innie or outie. I want to know from Matt and Hayes, are they innie and outie or outie on these takes? First up, LeBron James says on the Pat McAfee show that if you dropped Giannis Antetokounmpo into a game in the 1970s, he'd score 250 points. Hayes, are you innie? Are you emotional? Are you chaotic? Are you buying into this? Or are you outie on the Kings' hot take?
I'm outie on this. Like, not to say that he wouldn't dominate, but to say 200 points, come on. That
250. You're cheating.
250 is great. No, he would not. And plus, if you go back there, they were fighting. They're going to fight you if you try to score that much on them. So, no, he's not scoring 250 points.
Quick follow-up question. Does he get to have cocaine too?
That'd be an intense version of Giannis.
Because look, if you say that Giannis gets to have cocaine too, I'm open to it. Like I'm not saying it would happen. I'm just saying I'm not going to rule it out if he gets to have cocaine too.
That's a fantastic point. Maybe the best one you've made on this show today. Let's go to the Memphis Grizzlies. They had teammates Desmond Bane and Santi Aldama. They had words during a timeout huddle before Desmond Bane shoved Aldama into one of the bench seats. Are you innie or outie, Matt, on this grit on grind crime?
I guess I'm innie because I think this is like important. Like you need healthy tension. Love it. I love healthy tension. I think healthy tension is good. I think you want guys fighting. I think you want guys mad. I think this team has been lethargic over the last month. I think they've been complacent. I think that they've been pitying themselves, and they need to get out of that, and they need to start fighting. And they fought back, and they went on a huge run, and they got to win over a terrible team. I'd like to see them do it versus somebody with a pulse. But I want to see stuff like this. Now, I kind of want to defend Santi because I'm kind of like, Santi's maybe been a little bit better relative to talent than you have this year, Desmond. But in general, I want to see this. This is a good sign for me that this is happening. This is what I want to see from a team trying to get itself together before the playoffs.
I'm all in for this. I think that this is, I mean, stuff like this happens probably more than we know. It just doesn't get out. But like, you need to find your edge. And the Memphis Grizzlies are a team that I'm still high on, right? So whatever it takes for this team to wake up and play with the necessary kind of fire that's needed, that they're going to need in the playoffs, great. It is what it is. It happens more than we know. I don't look at this as too bad of a thing.
I'm any, but Santi, some advice. If you're going to have words with a guy like Desmond Bane and the size of shoulders that he has, you got to get on the front foot, man. You got to be on your toes. You can't get shoved all the way back into your bench seat. Not good.
Or do cocaine. That's the other alternative.
Or time travel back to the 1970s.
Yes, that's right.
Let's end the show with Can We Talk About It? It's Wednesday, and that means it's time for Matt and Hayes to tell us what we've missed so far this week. Hidden gems, uncovered storylines. It's Can We Talk About? We got a couple minutes left. Hayes, you're up first. What do you want us to talk about?
My Bulls, of course. Come on. The Bulls, since the All-Star break, are top 10 in basically every major statistical category that matters. Sixth in net rating, and sixth in defense. So seventh in defensive rating, seventh in offensive rating. They're sixth overall in net rating in the league. Talk about the Bulls more, because guess what? It helps. It helps me get over and cope with the fact that we're winning so many games at the end of the season. So there you go.
Well, we have. To our credit, we have been talking about it, but I agree, more national shows, more shows should be talking about what the Bulls are doing, and they could be a team. You mentioned the Pistons. The Bulls could be a team that take advantage of this Milwaukee Bucks situation with Dame Lillard as well to get out of the first round. Matt, what should we be talking about more?
Mine's more of a macro point. I mentioned it earlier. It's wild to me. Like I said yesterday that I've got projections that put the Wolves in the 6th spot, and Wolves fans were like, "What are you talking about? Have you seen us play lately? We're playing awful." And I'm like, "But this is a 2-week period in the course of 6 months." I am begging you. What is happening right now is unlikely to continue to the end of the season. So the teams that are struggling right now are probably going to look better by the time that we get to April. Second week of April, because April's next week. The teams that look awesome probably not going to look as good. The Warriors were unstoppable a week ago, and they got housed by Miami, who lost 9 straight. It's not just that we've been on the show talking about the March stuff. I'm trying to remind everybody, the playoffs are its own ecosystem. Everything changes. It doesn't matter if you're struggling right now. You can pull out of it and salvage your season. Memphis, Minnesota, all these teams that are struggling can pull out of it and have a totally different end. And the teams that look like everything is great and what could possibly go wrong, Ryland Styles, keep your guard up, because you do not know what's coming. We are entering plot twist season.
All right, just like Severance, perfect segue. If you like what you heard today, this is the only NBA show, I'm certain this is the only NBA show on the internet that talks about innies, outies, and Schedule 2 narcotics. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Thanks to Matt and Hayes for their expertise. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other, and we're going to see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.